You ever heard the expression, don't take a wooden nickel? Well, we're going to find out why from a collector of wooden nickels who's here at the Central States Convention. Darrell, I've always heard the expression, don't take a wooden nickel. Why has that developed?
There's a reason for that, because on the rear of the wooden nickels that were issued for the city centennials, they had to be redeemed by the last date of the centennial celebration. So you'll see that they were no longer redeemable after like 1 p.m. on June 9th. So on June 8th, people would say, don't take any wooden nickels because tomorrow they'll be worthless.
But that's not the case today. Tell me about the collectability of these cool numismatic items.
Okay, let me give you a little history of wooden money in the first place. Back in December of 1931, the U.S. was slipping into a depression, and banks were closing across the country. Well, that happened in the little town of Tenino, Washington. And the local Chamber of Commerce realized when the bank is closed, people don't have access to their money, which means they're not going to be able to spend at the local merchants, and the merchants are going to go out of business. So what they did was very much like what some other cities did, is they issued paper scrip. And this scrip, you would bring in your bank book, show them what your balance was, you would sign over 25% of your bank account to the Chamber of Commerce. So you would receive paper scrip worth 75% of your bank account. Some of the paper money that they had, they issued 4 different denominations of paper scrip. The first one, the lowest, is 25 cents. And by the way, this one is embossed and also redeemed, which is one of only 3 pieces that were ever found like this. The second one was $1. The third one was $5. And the last one was $10. So you now put this paper scrip in your pocket, you could go down to the local merchant and you could buy whatever staples it was that you needed. Well, in mid-December of 1931, a local merchant came in and he had pieces of split spruce. And he was offering them that people could make them out of postcards and send out Christmas greetings. But the local Chamber of Commerce noticed that they were about the same size as the 25-cent paper scrip that they'd already issued. So on a trial basis, what they did is go to the local printer and they printed the 25 cent on the piece of wood. 40 pieces were all that were printed. Today, there's 14 known to exist. And about 4 years ago, I saw one go on eBay for $1,000. So they're very rare. In the late 1930s, a company called the John Rogers Producing Company out of Fostoria, Ohio, decided that they would go to cities that were having their centennials and they would make them an offer. They would print out wooden money. These were what we call flats, and they had 1 wooden nickel, 2 wooden nickels, and 5 wooden nickels. This is a 1 wooden nickel that was produced for a city centennial. On the reverse, it has the date and the time that it must be redeemed. So the day before, people would say, don't take any wooden nickels, tomorrow they'll be worthless. These were put out in the denominations of 1 wooden nickel. This is 2 wooden nickels, a different city. And again, it's good through September 27th. So 28th, they'd be worthless. We have a 5 wooden nickel for another city. And this one was redeemable through June 17th, after which time it was no good. So people would get these from the merchants, and they would, they'd get them in change, and then they turn around and some of them were kept. But back in the 1940s, 25 cents was a lot of money. So they would redeem them. And what the merchant would do is just break it in 2. So if you're collecting these today, the 1 wooden nickel and the 2 wooden nickel are much easier to find than the 5 wooden nickel.
What's the best way to store your nickels?
Okay, let me go on a little bit more in the John Rogers Company. They made that offer to cities a couple of months in advance of the Centennial celebration. In return, they would print the wooden nickels for the city, and the city would give them a history of their city. And the John Rogers Company would come in with a stage production crew on the Centennial celebration and actually put on a production. The women wore long gowns, the men wore beards, and they would give a history of the city. The city charged the people to come to these productions, and that's how the Chamber of Commerce covered their costs of the celebration, and the John Rogers Company made money. So this continued into the 1953, in which the wooden nickel flats were no longer used, and they went to the small round ones, which there's a company in San Antonio, Texas today that prints over 6 million a year. So we have collectors of every type, way, shape, and form. Some specialize in wooden nickels from their cities, from their states, or they collect in the whole country. They may collect flats, they may collect rounds. Some specialize in businesses like the extinct Sambo's restaurant, and some will specialize on U.S. bicentennials, and we have centennials of cities. We have a guidebook of wooden money that I published in April of 2010, and it has pieces that were issued by states, counties, and cities for their centennials, festivals, and fairs, and there's over 32,000 pieces listed in that guidebook. We're in the process of developing a website right now, and we're going to put the updated guidebook on the website so that anybody can download it free of charge. We go to conventions like Central States and ANA. We have tables where we give out free wooden nickels, put them in the hands of people, and that's how we get our new collectors. We've got a couple of hundred. We are international in scope. We've got most of our collectors are from the United States, but we also have Canada and England and Israel, and we enjoy our hobby. I started out collecting pennies when I was 11 years old and on a paper route. And as years went past, I upgraded my collection until it got too expensive. And then I started collecting wooden money because they're cheap.
What's the best way to store your wooden nickels?
We do use acetate pages. The flats we can put anywhere from 8 to 9 in a page. The round ones you can put in a 2x2 flip and put into pages, and I store mine alphabetically by state, and I think I've got, at last count, 42 binders of wooden nickels, and those are in two-door cabinets.
What's the average cost?
We have guidebook suggested prices. For the round ones, they start at $2 if they were issued for a city centennial. For the flats, the suggested is $5. If you're a member of the club, we have monthly mail bids, and we start the rounds at 25 cents and the flats at $1.50. So you can buy a lot of wooden nickels for that price, and we've also got what are called common woods. They're coin clubs, businesses, personal woods, and things like that. I'll say I've got boxes and boxes full, and I'll sell them to you for a penny a piece. So it is a cheap hobby.